But we are continuing with our fall series all member learning session. So today we're going to be providing you with a service purchase webinar for those members in the DBprime pension plan design at the CAAT Pension Plan. But what I want to do first is I want to properly introduce myself. My name is Steve Hyland. I'm the lead of pension education here at CAAT. I've been at CAAT for, I'd say, just over 8.5 years now, and a big part of my job is education and training. I basically talk all things pension. You would have heard or seen me on the fall series webinars that we've been doing. We do retirement planning, plan overviews, and sessions like this on purchases. I've also been in the pension industry for over, I would say, 15 years now. So I'm very excited and happy to be with you here today. Now, I mentioned this is DBprime service purchases, so it's important to understand if you are not a member of DBprime, you should sign up for the DB Plus pension purchase webinar, which is, by the way, scheduled for tomorrow, October the 5th at 9 a.m. Okay, so that's when we're doing our DB Plus purchase webinar. But again, this session here today is specifically for DBprime members. I'm not alone here today. We're lucky to have our resident CAAT service purchase expert, Zane Khan, who works on service purchases within the member services team here at CAAT. So thank you, Zane, for joining us. He'll be assisting and supporting with the questions that come in. All right, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking you through an informative webinar about service purchases, as I said. So how they can increase your pension that you're eventually going to receive at retirement. Basically what it is, it's simply using other retirement savings to increase your overall retirement income that you're going to receive from CAAT. And some people love this idea of consolidating, their pension assets under one pension plan roof, so to speak. And making a purchase is a really effective way to do that, to maximize your retirement income. Okay, so again, I'm going to leave plenty of time for questions. So send your questions in using the questions box throughout the session. And at the end of the session, I'll be launching a couple of brief polling sessions as well. So let's jump right in. So this is our agenda. This is what we're going to be covering throughout the hour here today. And what I'm going to do before I go through this, I'm just going to turn off my webcam so that you can better easily follow along with what we're presenting and the slides that I'm showing, and also it's going to help with connectivity issues if we encounter anything like that. Okay. So first of all, what we're going to cover is, why. The why. It's always about the why. So why make a purchase? Why is making a purchase a good idea? For most of us, it is a great idea. In fact, it's a very, very popular option that you have with CAAT. And we're going to cover the main steps in the pension purchase process. Okay, there are 6 steps, as you can see here. So we're going to cover learning about your purchase options. Okay, next you want to run an estimate. And when you run an estimate, that's how you can access the form. So the form is a big part of the process. It's called the pension purchase application form. And I will be doing a demo a little bit later on to show you our actuarial cost estimator tool. But going back to the process here, number 3 there, this is where you obtain your proof of earnings, your T4 earnings, and submit that application form. And in most cases, your employer will provide you with the earnings, but in some cases, you may need to obtain that proof yourself. So there may be some instances where you may need to go to Canada Revenue Agency to obtain some proof, but in most cases, the employer should have that. And then I guess moving along here with the process, with the agenda, once CAAT has run an official quote, you're going to receive what's called a purchase package. And this is where you'll want to make your decision. And if you decide to go ahead, then the next step is to arrange for the transfer of the funds over. And then that's how you have a bigger pension. All right. And you're going to receive a pension purchase confirmation letter from us as well, letting you know what your pension has gone up to. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell, and we're going to be covering that step by step as we go through today. All right, so let's start off by looking at the top reasons why making a purchase may be right for you. Okay, and I want to I want everyone here to just take a note of what's on the screen right now in front of you, because this is probably the main reason. A purchase means a bigger pension for you, period. Okay, so why go ahead with it? Well, it's obvious, right? If you're getting a bigger pension, you're getting a larger monthly pension payment. There's the reason right there, right? But here it is again on the left-hand side. It simply means that bigger pension. So the purchase that you make simply gets added to your lifetime pension that you're already accruing, which again will obviously lead to a higher pension payment in retirement once you get there. And also for some people, when they make a purchase, it may help them to retire sooner, maybe than they had originally planned. All right, so that's another reason right there. Another reason is, it can simplify your life. How? Well, that consolidation, right? By consolidating your retirement savings, it's going to spare you time, it's going to spare you effort. You're going to have less worry associated with investing your retirement savings on your own. Okay, so a lot of people, like I said earlier, they just love that idea of consolidating their pension assets or consolidating their savings for retirement. Once they get to retirement, they just want to collect their pension and enjoy their retirement. Also, another thing that's on the screen here, and this is very, very important too, is CAAT is not going to charge you any commissions or fees, things like that. So a purchase can provide an excellent return on your investment. And rest assured, knowing that your pension is being managed by CAAT, we are that trusted and secure pension plan that is sustainable over the long term. Here are a few other reasons here, and I touched on this already, but you're going to have more retirement options. So choosing your retirement date without having to worry about investment market performance means that you can retire when that time is right for you. A purchase may help you retire with what's called an unreduced pension. And like I said, maybe even at an earlier date. And so how can you do that? Well, because when you make a purchase, you may be able to reach your milestone date sooner. So for example, you may have heard terms like the 60-20 rule or the 85 factor rule. You may be able to hit those criteria sooner. And if you do, then that would affect your retirement date. You may want to go a little bit earlier because you're hitting those numbers. So again, this is for members of DBprime who are eligible to retire with that unreduced pension. Normal retirement date again is age 65, but once their age in service adds up to 85 points or more, or they're 60 years old with at least 20 years of service, then at that point, these members have earned that unreduced pension. The last thing I want to mention here is that your purchased pension also includes valuable benefits. So things like conditional inflation protection increases, which is a valuable benefit in the CAAT plan. Survivor pensions for your spouse, if you have one, at no additional cost to you. So I'm mentioning these benefits because when you're increasing your pension overall, you're increasing the other benefits that you're going to receive as well, like the ones I just mentioned. So survivor pensions, inflation protection, it all applies to your purchased pension. Okay, so whenever I speak about purchases, I always try to recommend that members go back and they look at their past employment history, and not only their time with their CAAT participating employer, but maybe other employers as well. So you want to see if you have eligible periods to purchase, and maybe you can learn about those timelines for each type of purchase, depending on what's applicable for you, because you do have a lot of options. So the process, well, you initiate this purchase process yourself. Okay, so today our main focus is going to be on that process, how to go about it, and there are 6 easy steps, which we covered in the agenda. And we're going to be using this, what I call snake game board throughout the presentation to help us follow along with each step of the process. And as I said, this presentation is really structured around the standard process for making a purchase in the CAAT plan. But the process I'm going to show you today, it can slightly vary, particularly when you're making a purchase for a leave of absence, okay, or a break in employment with a current employer. And we're going to touch on that throughout this presentation as well. But we're going to be going through the main process, and we're going to use this snake board to do it. All right, so step number 1, learn about your purchase options. Seems obvious, I know, but that's why you are here today. So you already got the ball rolling. So there is a lot of information on the website about purchases as well. All you need to do is go into the members section and click increasing your pension with a purchase. There are videos, there are pamphlets, there's a ton of info there, and that's where you want to start. You're going to see 3 little icons there: learn, return, and earn. Okay, so this first step is all focused around the learning phase. Okay, so this is where you want to learn about the different types of purchases that you can make as a CAAT plan member. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you want to determine if you have an eligible period of employment to purchase. Okay, so that's really what we're saying when we talk about step 1. That's how you learn about if you have these eligible periods of employment, and if you do, then you can start exploring your purchase options. So these are the types of purchases that you can make in the plan, and they can be broken down into 2 main categories. So the first one is periods of employment before enrolling, and the second category is breaks in employment. So moving from left to right on the screen, periods of employment before enrolling in the plan. This could be a period of time where you were working for a CAAT employer, but let's say you hadn't joined the plan as of yet, you hadn't enrolled. Okay, well, that piece before you enrolled would be eligible for purchase. Or another example is maybe you had a prior period of membership with CAAT. For example, you were a member of the plan once upon a time, and then you terminated your employment, you took your funds, you took your benefit out of the plan, and then now you find yourself back at a CAAT participating employer. Well, you can purchase that piece as well. And another example of this would be with a prior employer and a registered pension plan. Okay, so again, looking at past employment history, maybe once upon a time you worked for another employer that had a registered pension plan. Okay, and if they did, you may have a benefit sitting in a locked-in retirement account, and you may want to make that purchase, or you can transfer those funds directly over. Now, the second category here on the right half of the screen is breaks in employment. This could be an unpaid leave of absence. It could be a statutory leave with your employer. For example, maybe a pregnancy leave, a parental leave, but this would mean like any break in employment that you have with your CAAT participating employer. Okay, so fairly straightforward, but these are the 2 main types of purchases: periods of employment before enrolling, and second, breaks in employment. Now, in some situations or some circumstances, let's say if your employer joined the plan recently, then you may have a period of employment prior to enrolling with CAAT. So this could be a period of time when you participated in a retirement arrangement, such as a DC plan or even a group RSP. Okay, so right before joining CAAT, you came from somewhere else, and if you were part of one of these arrangements, then once that plan closes, you're eligible to transfer the funds to CAAT as a part of a purchase. So you can do this provided the period occurred on or after January 1, 1991. Okay. Members can also purchase a period of employment with a participating employer where they were contributing to a group RSP, regardless of whether or not they can transfer that benefit out of the group RSP plan. Okay, so, but with pre-enrollment purchases, they're not limited to a period of employment where you were part of a pension arrangement. Okay, it could also be a period of employment when you were working for a CAAT employer before you joined the plan. Okay, and I mentioned that example earlier on the previous slide. But these are pre-enrollment periods. Now, circling back to breaks in employment, specifically when it comes to purchasing a leave. Whenever you purchase a break in employment, this could be a leave of absence, right? So you may be able to benefit from making the purchase within a certain time frame, and that time frame is within 6 months of your return to work. So as soon as you return from a leave, you're going to have a decision to make. And again, the 6-month mark, this is the important milestone in determining how much pension your contribution can purchase. So within the first 6 months after the end of your break in employment or return to work, for certain types of leaves, like statutory leaves, Okay, if you decide to purchase it, then the purchase is shared equally between you and your CAAT plan participating employer. So the cost of the statutory leave or any unpaid leave is based on deemed earnings and contribution rates in effect at the time of the leave. So that's how it works. That's how the calculation works. But after 6 months, the cost of the leave changes. So after that 6-month mark, you're going to pay the entire amount of the purchase. Okay, and at that point, the cost is going to become the higher of that actuarial cost or the contribution cost based on contribution rates at the time of the purchase. So it becomes a little more complicated after that 6-month mark, but the actuarial cost is the value of the future pension in today's dollars. Okay, so the actuarial cost is based on factors like your age, your current salary, and there are some other assumptions in there, like, for example, long-term interest rates. Please ensure that you do reach out to your employer to determine if you have any leaves in the past eligible for purchase. So sometimes members, they simply just don't know, and it's always a good idea to double check with your employer. If you've already retired or terminated employment, you're not eligible to make a purchase. Okay, you need to be an active enrolled member in the plan. Okay, unless of course if you're rehired and you resume membership in the plan. Now, although pre-1992 service can be purchased, it must be transferred directly from the prior plan. So it cannot be purchased using cash or through an RSP transfer. Funds from group RSPs and deferred profit sharing plans, or DPSPs, are not eligible to be transferred if it's with a non-participating CAAT employer. All right. Unless, of course, there is a caveat here. It's coming from a new employer who has just joined or merged their plan. It's a little complicated, I know, but if you're not sure, always ask us. So step number 2, okay, and this is really very, very important. You want to get an estimate. You want to explore your purchase option. And to do that, to download the pension application form, you need to go online, run an estimate. Okay, so let's look at that snake board again. So now that you know maybe you have an eligible period of employment that you're looking at, the next step is to get that estimate. So in fact, to download that pension application form, you must run an estimate on the website. That's the only way you can access the form. But I want to show everyone here the DBprime pension formula. So as a reminder, when calculating your DBprime pension at retirement, pensionable service is the main multiplier. So you can see that here in the middle of the screen, pensionable service. It's the total amount of time that you were earning a benefit under DBprime, which means that the longer you work, the bigger your pension. Okay, so whenever you make a purchase in DBprime, you're going to be increasing that pensionable service amount. In other words, you're adding service to what you currently have, okay, which will ultimately lead to a higher pension amount when you retire because you're increasing that service factor. Now, we don't expect members to do these rough calculations on paper themselves. We do have tools that can help you determine the amount of pension that you're eligible to purchase and what the impact that purchase will have on your pension amount from CAAT. So what I'd like to do right now is demonstrate our tools. Okay, so I want to look at the actuarial cost estimator. We call it the ACE tool. And then I'm going to show you quickly the pension estimator for DBprime. Okay, so bear with me a second. I'm just going to have a sip of water, and then I'm going to jump onto our website. All right, so hopefully now you're seeing the CAAT Pension Plan website. You can see here our digital year in review, Making Tomorrow Better 2021 year in review. Now, to access the actuarial cost estimator tool, you want to go to one of these tabs here across the top. You want to go to the Members tab. And then what you want to do is you want to scroll down to the bottom to our most popular member resources. Okay, so all the links are here. And today's webinar is on DBprime service purchases. So we're going to go to increasing your pension. Now, we talk about purchases, we want to go to increasing your pension. Okay, now there are many different tools on our website. You want to make sure you're on the right one. So again, this is for members of DBprime. So on the left-hand side here, you want to ensure you click DBprime. And then once you scroll down on DBprime, it's going to have lots of valuable information, like how will a purchase increase your pension, which is what we're talking about today. And then this is where you can complete your purchase in 3 stages. So here's the learn, return, and earn that I was talking about earlier. And what we're doing right now is we're learning about our options, which include running an estimate and downloading the pension purchase application form. So this is really the first stage of the purchase process. Okay, so it outlines what you're going to learn, but to jump right to the actuarial cost estimator tool, you want to click this link. It's going to bring you down the page a little further. This tells you how to use the tool right here. There it is, the ACE tool. And here's how you can access it. So you click this big blue button, and here we are. There's some terms of use. We're not going to go through them today, but I encourage everyone to go through those terms of use. There's a help feature here on the right-hand side. And number 1 is this is how you can start your estimate. So your name is optional. You don't really need it, but if you're using a shared printer, it's a good idea to put it in. So, I'll put my name here, Steve. What is your age? We're going to use, in this example, we're going to use 40 years old. And we're going to use an annual salary rate of $60,000. And it's going to ask you how many years of pensionable service do you have in the CAAT plan. So again, all this information is based on your information. So you're plugging this in. So today's example, we will use 10 years of service. Click the next button, and then you're on to step 2, and this is where you select your options. So it's going to ask you what types of purchases are you making. So there are a few choices that you can choose from. So you want to read them all and make sure it fits your specific example. There's I took time off work without pay, and it's been more than 6 months since I returned. So there's that option. There's I worked for a CAAT plan participating employer before joining CAAT. So this is saying here you worked for another CAAT plan employer. But we're going to use number 1 here, which was I was a member of a non-CAAT plans employer prior to joining the CAAT plan. Okay, so this means you have time where you worked in another registered pension plan and you want to look at purchasing some service. So if we scroll down, I'm going to ask you to select the cost method. So there's 2 ways that you can look at this. You can enter the total years where you worked at your prior employer that had a pension plan, or you can enter the amount of funds available to make the purchase, okay, based on your benefit that was tied to employment. Okay, so I'm going to use the service. So I'm going to say, you know what, I worked for another employer before joining CAAT, and I had 3 years of service working over there and contributing to their pension plan. Then you click calculate, and it's that easy. So once you click calculate, it's going to spit out some results here. And this is your actuarial cost estimate. So remember, it's just an estimate, but here it tells you the estimated cost range of purchasing 3 years. Okay, that's what we put in, 3 years. And it says here it's between $50,000 and $55,000. So we know that's the estimated cost to buy us 3 years of service with CAAT. Okay, this calculation is based on the data that we just put in. Okay, and if we like what we see here, we can proceed by downloading the pension purchase application form, which is right here. So there's a little hyperlink here that you can click on to access the form. Okay, and what I like to do is I just like to open the link in a new tab, and I'll show you the form. This is what it looks like. So it's very simple to fill out. Step 1 is you complete section A, which is all your member information, last name, first name, email address, mailing address, things like that. Section B is for your prior employer, okay? So you need to get this form to your prior employer. That's your responsibility. They will fill out section B, and they're also going to provide us with your earnings history for those 3 years where you worked in that prior plan. Then they'll fill out section D as well. This is the plan authorization. And they'll send this form back to you, or they will send it directly to CAAT. So you need to provide that instruction to them once you send them this form. And then CAAT will receive this form, and once everything is in order on this form, we'll run that official quote or estimate for you so that you can decide whether you like to go ahead. So here, remember, you're just getting the ball rolling, you're accessing the form, and you're sending it to your prior employer. Now, before you actually fill out this form, what you could do, okay, and this is probably recommended that you do, is you go on the website and you go to the pension estimator tool. Because now you want to see whether it's worth it for you to purchase more service in the plan based on your own scenario. So we're going back to the members tab here. We're going to go back to popular member resources and click estimate a pension. Okay, so here we are. And here's the first pension estimator, which is the one we're using today for our audience, Ontario College Employers or a related employer. We're looking for the DBprime estimator. You click on this one here, and this brings us to the three-step pension estimator. I'm going to go through the terms of use again, click start. And then this is the input page. We will not be using the information from our annual statement, so that's toggled to no. And then you need to input your date of birth. All right, so we'll use someone who's 40 years old. Again, the reason why we're using the exact same age that we plugged into the ACE tool earlier. Okay, click next. And now what you want to do is you can plug in your service and earnings. Right, so how much pensionable service do you have in the plan at the end of 2021? Remember, you want to use the same number you put in previously, 10 years. What will your actual earnings be? We had $60,000. And then they ask you here, you estimate your earnings will increase annually by. You can choose 1, 1.5, 0 if you want to be conservative. I'll put 1 for today's example. Click estimate. And right away, it's going to provide you with annual pension amounts at 3 milestone dates. Your normal retirement date at age 65, your earliest unreduced pension date, in this case, it's age 57 for what we put in. Annual, and then there's a bridge benefit as well up to age 65 in an annual figure. To get the monthly amounts here, you simply divide by 12. And then your earliest reduced pension date with a reduction. Okay, for the detailed explanations, you can click on this little arrow. But the reason I'm showing you this is because this is running an estimate with your current information. But now what you may want to do after you take note of what you see here, you might want to print it off, but you want to plug in another estimate. So go back to service and earnings. And now instead of 10 years, let's change that to 13, because now we're going to factor in those extra 3 years to buy or to purchase. Okay, so we're adding another 3 years of pensionable service to your already earned pension. We'll keep the earnings the same, we'll keep the earnings increase the same, and now we're going to do another estimate with those 13 years, and here's the new numbers. So you want to compare what you did previously to what you're seeing now. And right off the hop, I can see right away, all these numbers went up. This is now $37,000 annually at age 65. This is now $26,000 and $16,000. So all these numbers increased, including the bridge benefits, even the ages. So if you look at the earliest unreduced pension, by purchasing 3 years of service, the age has gone to 55 now instead of 57. Okay, so we've actually made this option a little bit better for the member. If you went ahead and purchased, they can now go a little bit earlier with an unreduced pension. Okay, but these are the types of things that you want to analyze with a fine-tooth comb to see if it's worth it for you. Okay, so every member is going to be very, very different, but you want to make sure that you know how to use our tools to determine what's right for you. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a really good understanding of the purchase tool and our pension estimator. Okay, but I'm going to move on with the presentation. We've only got about 8 minutes left, so I want to get through the rest of this. We don't have too much left. We're at step 3 here. This is where you want to complete the application form. So I showed you this already. I showed you it during the demo. But the key thing here is this is where you and your employer provide us the information to run the calculation. So you want to provide us with the T4 earnings for the period of employment that you want to purchase. Okay, and here it is here. I just showed it, so it should be fresh in your minds. But remember, there are a few different pension application forms depending on, remember, the type of purchase you're making. So there's a couple of different options there where you click the radio dial button. Okay, you want to make sure you click the correct one based on your own situation. You complete part A of this form like I showed you, which includes your personal information, and then your employer, sections B and C, that's what they fill out and send to us. Now, if the period of employment you're purchasing is with a past employer, remember, I just want to reemphasize, you need to contact them and arrange to send that purchase application form so they complete it and send it back to you. Assuming, once you complete the purchase application form and you get it sent to us, to CAAT, that's where you run the calc, and then of course you're halfway there. After we do those calculations, we provide you with that purchase package, and everything you need to know is in that package, including the quote with the amount you're eligible to purchase in the plan, everything you need to know, and it's going to be mailed to you. It takes about 30 days for us to complete the calculation once we receive the form. That's our SLA. But once you receive it, this is essentially when you make your decision. Just to let you know what's in your package specifically, it's going to have information on the amount of service that you're eligible to purchase and what the cost of the purchase will be. So you're going to have some time to look over the quote and decide if, making this purchase is the right choice for you. You have the option to purchase the full amount, or you could do a partial amount, or none of it at all. You're not required to purchase the full amount, and you're going to have the opportunity to purchase that service in the future if you wish. Now, if you decide, you know what, I want to go ahead, like I said earlier, there's lots to talk about RSP contribution room. It will affect your RSP contribution room, similar to the effect of your contributions to CAAT. But when you contribute to CAAT, again, I mentioned that you receive that PA, a pension adjustment, on your T4 each year, and you report that amount on your taxes. And because you're making a purchase for service in the past, you'll have something called the PSPA, which I also mentioned earlier, the past service pension adjustment. Okay, this will be applied to your RSP contribution room, and then we will contact CRA to ensure that you have enough room for the PSPA amount. If you need help with your purchase package specifically, and you're not sure, you have questions, then you can contact our member services team at any time, and they'll be able to assist you. Now, a major part of this package is the option document. Okay, so this form provides you with details on the amount, and this is where you can let CAAT know if you'd like to purchase the full amount or partial amount. You're going to see a deadline, because it does include one, and if the deadline were to pass and you're still interested in making the purchase, you can reapply, and the plan will provide you with a new quote. If you decide to make the purchase, you should return the completed option form from your package to CAAT as soon as possible, as soon as you can. You want to do that before the next step. Why? Well, because this at least lets us know that you're in the process of making a purchase and that we can expect those funds to transfer over eventually. Okay, so that's important that you at least let us know, even if you haven't sent anything over, or everything, all your package, your forms over, you at least want to let us know that you're still in the process of making the purchase. Step 5, yes, here we are, finally step 5, let's transfer those funds over to CAAT. So in this step, you're going to arrange those, that transfer of the funds. And these funds can come from a personal RSP directly from a prior employer's DB or DC pension plan, or by using cash. So again, there's a number of different options here, but you can't just send us money. It needs to be tied to employment for a past period of employment. Now, if you're using cash or funds in a personal RSP, okay, you will contact the financial institution holding those funds to transfer them to CAAT. So if you're transferring funds from a former employer's pension plan, you'll notify them that you are making the transfer. Okay, so it depends. And this step involves completing some forms as well. And these forms will all be included in your package, and they can take up to 60 days for the funds to actually transfer over to CAAT. So one of the forms you're going to receive in your package is called a T2033. This is used by the financial institution holding your funds to show that they're being transferred from one registered retirement account to another. The reason why this is important is because you're not going to face any tax implications of taking the funds out of your account. Okay, because they're going to another tax sheltered account, so no tax implications whatsoever. When you see this form, yes, it can be intimidating because it's just an intimidating form, but Remember, you're responsible for completing just section 1. Again, personal information. Part A, specifying where the funds are being transferred from. And we're going to highlight Part C as well on this slide as any pre-filled application forms. Now, there's also a T2151. Okay, so this form is used if you're transferring funds that are currently being held in a prior employer's pension plan. Okay, so there's a difference between the two. T2151 is from a prior employer's pension plan. If you do plan on visiting your financial institution, it's probably a good idea. Sometimes people do that. To make your visit go smoothly or as stress-free as possible, it's probably a good idea to prep ahead of time. So make sure you prepare your paperwork in advance and that you know what has to be signed and completed. Okay, so things that you should take along with you, the letter from your package. It's titled Notification to Financial Institution. There's also a CRA direct transfer form that came in your package. And then you should also obviously bring, things like your debit card, form of ID, and things like that. The financial institution is probably going to charge you fees for the transfer. So I want to give you guys the heads up. These fees can come from any account, but they don't impact the transfer amount. Okay, but you are responsible for paying them. So to avoid any underpayment because of these fees, you want to advise your institution to pay net of fees. Okay, so a little tip there. And then, of course, after your visit, you want to watch your account. Okay, because your financial institution is going to arrange the transfer of the funds, and it's up to you to keep an eye on it to see if they've been made. If it's not complete in 2 weeks, it's probably a good idea to give them a call and follow up. Okay, but essentially at this point, your steps are done, and you just have to keep an eye on your account to make sure those funds transfer over. And the final step is a CAAT to do. Okay, so in this final step, step 6, is we are going to send you what's called a purchase confirmation letter. Okay, and this letter is going to show how much your pension has increased by, and we're going to let you know that it's completed, it's done, it's final. And the good news is you're going to be able to see that you've just added to your secure lifetime pension from the CAAT plan. So in addition to receiving the letter confirming your purchase, you're also going to see it reflected on your next annual statement. So as you know, we send out annual statements each and every year, and you'll be able to see on your next statement that purchase and how it affected your lifetime retirement income. Okay, now just as a side note, it can take up to 30 business days to receive the confirmation after we've received the funds. So here's a little recap of the 6-step process, but the key message here is, and yes, I'm going to say it one final time, a purchase means a bigger pension. Okay, so you can take this process step by step and you can get it all done. So just to quickly recap it, step 1 is learning about your options, determining whether you have eligible periods of employment. That could include breaks in employment, periods prior to membership. Step 2 is you want to use our online tools. We showed you the ACE tool, we showed you the pension estimator. You want to use that estimator to see if it's worth it to you. Okay, and that's where you want to ensure that you fill out the appropriate forms from the ACE tool, the actuarial cost estimator. Step 3 is submitting the form. Step 4 is where you make your decision. And if you do decide to go ahead, then you should now arrange for your funds to be transferred. And the last step is that confirmation letter from CAAT. Remember, if you're purchasing a leave of absence within 6 months, the process is a bit different. So we had this question earlier, but this is where you want to reach out to your employer to start that process because it was pretty fresh, it's pretty new. And it's a little bit different, but it's that within 6 months. And finally, we're here to support you. We're here to help you. We're with you every step of the way. So you can reach us by using any of the methods listed on this slide. Give us a call. With purchases, it comes down to your own personal situation, plain and simple. Everyone has a different situation. They have a different piece of employment that they're purchasing. So because of all these different scenarios, it's probably a great idea to give us a call. All right, well, thank you so much. And if you're interested, if some people logged on here as a DB Plus member, remember that session is tomorrow at 9 a.m. So thanks for joining and have a great afternoon.